So it's the weekend, so it's time to update my spreadsheet. I'm going to update it with the purchases that I've made on some of these ETFs, and we're going to update these ETFs for those distributions. And that will give us our new real price per share to find out if we can turn some of these red ones to green. Hello my friends, this is Legend. Like I said, it's the weekend, so it's time to update my spreadsheet. And let's just take a quick little look over the spreadsheet just to see where it's at before we add in those distributions and the new purchases that I did make. So as you can see before the entry, if I were to sell out of every one of these ETFs, I will clear about $18,000. Not too shabby, right? And that is utilizing that current market price. But with that said, there are some here that if I did sell, I would lose some money. Right along with others, if I did sell, I would make money. It's just in the end, after I sell everything, including the ones that I've already sold, I would make $18,000. And that's what this green number at the top up here is telling us. But as you can see, the ones that I am down on are CONY, ULTY, SMCY, WDTE, and that's it. DIVO is very close, right? I have not earned a distribution yet, but DIVO normally wants to move up and to the right. But since that share price is very close to my purchase price, this one here does flip back and forth from green to red. Now, once I do earn a distribution, that will give me a little bit of a buffer. But if it did come down, it could still turn red. But over time, if DIVO continues to move up, it'll eventually move away from my price. And that would give me a little bit of a buffer so that if it did dip down, it would stay green. So that's why DIVO is only 0.04% in the green. So we are pretty much right there on that line. Versus JEPQ, I'm at 77% green. QQQY, about 7%. QDTE, 18%. WDTE, I'm down 7%. SMCY, I'm only down 0.08. So I'm hoping after entering that distribution that this one here will flip to green. NVDY up 9. ULTY, I'm down 1.6. PLTY, I'm up 76%. And CONY down 17%. Now, of course, all of this is before entering in any other purchases that I have made. And I have not updated it for the distributions either. So before I go into that, if you don't mind, hit that like button as it would be much appreciated. So if you'd like to get a copy of this sheet where you can track your own ETFs, come on over, join the Discord. You can get your copy of this sheet, enter in your own stocks that you are tracking so that you can calculate what your adjusted price per share is, to know if you're actually red in your play or are you green in the play. So let's just go ahead and jump right on in and let's get to updating the sheet. And to get to the individual sheets, each one of these do have links that take you right to that individual sheet. All you do is hover over the ticker symbol, it pops up, you click it, and there you go. You're right to that individual sheet where you enter in any purchases along with the distributions that you've made. And for CONY, I have made some purchases. And why did I make those purchases? And that would be because on the stock chart, if it is at the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and that RSI2 is under 10, then for me, that's a potential buy time to help lower that real price per share so that when it does pop back up, it's got less room to go before hopefully getting back to my adjusted price per share. So that's how I make my determination of whether or not I'm going to be purchasing shares or not. But of course, the first thing I look for is to make sure that current price is under my real price per share. And that's why if we go back to the summary page, you'll see this red number down here, this red cell. That means that if I did buy shares at the current price, it will lower my real price per share. And if it is green, it means that if I did buy shares at that current price, then it will raise that real price per share. And I do not want to do that, so I only pay attention to the ones that are red. And then I go to the stock chart, and I'm looking for the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, and I'm looking for that RSI2 to be under 10. And that's how I make my decisions on whether or not I'm going to make any purchases. But like I said, I did make some purchases on CONY. So let's go back to the individual sheet on CONY here. So my first purchase on CONY was on 120 for $38.19 per share for 25 shares. So that's going to lower my real price per share. Why? Well, because I bought them at $38.19 and my real price per share is $48.49. So buying 25 shares is going to lower that real price per share from $48.49 down to $46.40. Nice drop, right? What a drop. Now that put me at a total of 123 shares. And when I saw that, I just went ahead and bought a couple more shares just to get to 125. So on that same day, right after that one went through, I ended up buying 2 shares at that $38.15, and that was for 2 shares. But it is still going to lower that real price per share because I did purchase them under that real price per share. So that $46.40 now is going to become $46.27. But I did yet make another purchase, and that was on 122, and I purchased these at $37.49. And I got 15 shares on that one. Now, $37.49, that is still under that $46.27. So therefore, it's going to lower that real price per share. So these 15 shares is going to take that real price per share of $46.27 and drop it down to $45.33. Bring it on down. But I did make yet another purchase on 123. And that was at $36.39. And how many shares did I get? I bought 15 more shares. So that $45.33 real price per share is now going to drop yet again down to $44.46. So continually to drop that down while it is under my real price per share. But yet I am still only buying them if it is under the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and that RSI2 is under 10. But I've got one more thing to enter in on CONY, and that would be that distribution. Now, I've already entered in all the distributions for these here, just so that I wouldn't have to look it up each time we go to the next ticker. And you can see we earned 22 cents on CONY. So how many shares can I account for that distribution? Well, to determine that, I enter in on this date here. This is the X date. That's why I enter in the X date here, because that helps me to look back on my purchases. And it's easy to look and just see if I own the shares before this X date. And that X date is 122. So I have to own those shares before 122. And therefore, the 123 for 15 shares, I cannot count that because it's after 122. And this 15 shares on 122, I cannot count for this distribution because it is on the X date. I can only count the ones that are before the X date. So I cannot count these 2 purchases right here, which is a total of 30 shares. So I have to subtract 30 shares from my total number of shares, as that would be the number of shares that I can count for this distribution. So 155 minus 30 is 125. So I can enter in 125 shares for that 22 cents distribution. And that's going to also help to lower that real price per share from $44.46 down to $44.28. So where I was about 17% down on CONY, I'm only 14% down now. Now I have put more money into it, right? But percentage-wise, I'm staying right there near that 14%, as I need CONY to start moving up so that it can get back up close to my real price per share. And then hopefully I can turn this one green. Now it's going to take some time, but I'm going to continue to work with CONY and see if I can get this one turned around. Next we have PLTY. And PLTY, we earn 37 cents for that distribution. And how many shares do I have? I have 37 shares. So I enter in my 37 here, and that's going to adjust that real price per share from $1.29 down to 91 cents. What a nice real price per share on PLTY. So currently, my adjusted price per share is only 91 cents per share on PLTY. I'm still looking and hoping to get this one here paid off by at least the end of February. But we'll see how that goes. But so far, it's going well. NVDY, we earned 8 cents. And how many shares do I have? I have 71 shares. So my $12.03 real price per share will come down to $11.95. So for this one, if I were to sell all of my shares, I would make $181. Not lose, but make $181. And just like here on PLTY, you can see if I were to sell all those shares, I'd make $1,700. So you can't tell me that I'm going to lose my money, because it looks like I'm making money on PLTY and on NVDY. And next we have ULTY. And ULTY, we earn 50 cents for that distribution. And how many shares do I have? I have 56 shares. So I can enter in that 56 shares here. And that's going to change that real price per share of $38.02. And it's going to come down to $37.51. Boy, I tell you, if ULTY would just trade sideways for just a little while, I can get this one flipped over to the green side. But I'll be patient and continue to do what I'm doing, and eventually it will get there, in my opinion. But if I were to sell all my shares at the current price of ULTY at $37.27, then I would lose $13.43 because my real price per share is above the current price of ULTY. And on MSTY, we earned 43 cents for that distribution. How many shares do I have? 95 shares. So for MSTY, it's currently paid off. So that's why it's green, and it says minus 5.95 because that is the amount that I have made after my payoff. But with that new distribution, that's going to increase my gains here from $5.95 per share to $6.38 per share. So if I were to sell everything on MSTY, I would make $34.40. Not too bad, right? And eventually, PLTY will look just like MSTY, as it will be paid off in just a few more distributions as long as they continue to come in as they have been. And on SMCY, we earned 11 cents on SMCY. With my real price per share of $8.25, we earned 11 cents per share. And how many shares do I have? I have a total of 300 shares, so I can enter in all 300 right here. And that distribution is going to lower my real price per share of $8.25 down to $8.13. I have now broke below SMCY's current price of $8.24, so this one has flipped over to green. So now if I were to sell all my shares at that current price of $8.24, I would make $33. For AMDY, we earn 35 cents per share on that distribution, and I have a total of 164 shares, so my real price per share of $30.85 now drops to $30.50. And at that current price of $40.90, if I were to sell all my shares of AMDY, I would make $1,705. Not lose, but make. And next we have YMAX. And for YMAX, we earned 8 cents, and I have 758 shares. So therefore, my real price per share of $7.53 now becomes $7.45. With the current price of $9.87, that means if I were to sell all 758 shares of YMAX, I would make $1,833. And that's why all of these are green. And on HUI. For HUI, I did make a purchase on this one, and that purchase was on 119, and I bought some shares at $43.49. And at that price, I purchased 10 shares. So my real price per share of $47.44 is going to be dropping because I did buy shares under this $47.44. I bought shares at $43.49, so it is going to lower that adjusted price per share. And with that purchase, my real price per share of $47.44 now becomes $47.05. And then on top of that, we did earn a distribution of 46 cents. So how many shares can I count for that 46-cent distribution? Well, the X date being 122 means I have to own the shares before 122, and the last purchase was on 119, so I can account for all 101 shares of HUI. So I can enter in 101 into this field, and that's going to lower my real price per share of $47.05, and it's going to drop down to $46.59. So now HUI is only 5.6% down, and if I were to sell all my shares of HUI at the current price of $43.71, I would only lose $290, not $5,107 that I have invested. For QDTE, we earned 17 cents, and I have a total of 155 shares, so my real price per share of $22.98 now drops to $22.81. And therefore, if I had to sell all my shares of QDTE at the current price of $30.83, then I would make $1,243. And as you can see, most of these are positive gains. IWMY, we earned 11 cents, and I have 551 shares. So my real price per share of $15.89 now becomes $15.77. And since the current price of IWMY is $20.48, that means if I were to sell all 551 shares, I would make $2,593. Very nice. QQQY, we earned 13 cents, and I have 551 shares of this one. And with the real price per share of $20.38, that distribution will drop it down to $20.25. So if I were to sell all my shares of QQQY at that current price of $23.41, I would make $1,741. WDTE, we earned 17 cents, and I have 540 shares. So my real price per share of $26.69 now becomes $26.51. And with each distribution, I continue to lower my real price per share. For JEPQ, it is a monthly payer, and I have not earned a distribution for this month yet. So for this one, there's no change. My real price per share is still $10.66, and JEPQ current price being $59.22 means if I were to sell all 55 shares of JEPQ, I would make $2,670. Very, very nice. And last but not least is DIVO. And that one is a monthly payer as well. And it has not paid out a distribution this month yet. So for this one, there is no change as well. The current real price per share in my account is $45.30. And with the current price being $45.32, I am in the green, just barely, but it is green. So if I were to sell all those shares, I would pretty much about break even because it's only 2 cents in the green. So for this one, I'm pretty flat on at the moment. I have not lost anything, but I really haven't gained anything either at that current price. So that wraps up all of the ones that I currently have of these high yield ETFs. And to get back to my summary page, I can just simply hover over this back to summary button here, click the link, and back to the summary page I go. So now let's see how many red ones we have. Well, we know CONY is still red because that one's going to be a tough one for me to work through. But I believe over time I can get this one turned around. That's not guaranteed, but that's my plan. And ULTY, I am still down on, but it's only down 0.5%. If ULTY goes up just 30 cents per share in the market price, this one will flip green. But since it is so close, this one could be going back and forth, just like I have DIVO at times go back and forth. But you can see SMCY was red and now it is green because the current market price for SMCY is $8.24 and my real price per share is now $8.13 because I did earn a distribution, and that's money in my pocket. And we can slide on over and you can see HUI. We are still down on HUI. I am down about 5% on HUI. And if I were to sell everything, I would lose about $290 on HUI. So my real price per share being $46.59 and that market price being $43.71, that's where that loss would come into play. But I believe I can continue to work with HUI and get this one green as well. And sliding on over, you can see the rest of them are green. And all of these green numbers here, they all mean that if I were to sell, I would make money. The red ones means I would lose money. But you can see those numbers in this field right here where it's showing how much I would make or lose. You can see that the losses are definitely smaller than the wins. As I scroll through here, those losses are pretty small. The only one that's of any size would be CONY for $1,200. But you can see that the other ones make up for it really quick, right? PLTY was $1,700, MSTY with $3,400, AMDY was $1,700, YMAX with $1,800, and so forth. So that $1,200 loss doesn't affect me too bad. I don't like it, and I'm going to work to get it brought down, but I do need the help of CONY to get to moving back up. So I do need time, and I do need a little bit of movement on CONY to move up to help me out as well. So currently, I am only down 3 in these in a total of 15 ETFs, and that's high yield ETFs that I do have. So I am only down on CONY, ULTY, and HUI, as the rest of them are green. So feeling pretty good about that for sure. And of course, making those purchases and entering those distributions has updated and increased the amount of money I would make if I were to sell out of everything. And that's all 15 ETFs. I would make now $18,551 at the current prices of each of these ETFs. That would clear me $18.5 thousand. So I know a lot of people say I'm going to lose all my money, but I don't know about you. It doesn't look like I'm losing money. I'm making $18.5 thousand currently, and as these get paid off, that's just going to increase. And PLTY will be the next to get paid off, as it only has 3 more distributions needed at the average price. So that's not guaranteed 3 distributions. That is average of 3 distributions. So as those distributions could change, so could that estimated number of distribution payoff time. But just scrolling through here, some of these numbers are large, right? But some of them are pretty decent, but that's okay. I've got time, and as long as I continue to work these the way I'm working them, and as long as they stay positive, I'm making money, and I'm okay with that. So currently, if I sold out everything, I am not going to lose all my capital. I'm actually going to make money above the amount that I had invested. So of course, none of this is financial advice. Please do make sure that you look into any purchases, any stocks that you're looking at, any high yield ETFs, or anything to make sure that you understand what the risks are for each, as this is your money that you would be investing into whatever stock ETF that you would be selecting. I'm only showing you what I am doing. I'm only showing you what I'm invested into on these high yield ETFs, and this is just for entertainment. So again, if you would like to get a copy of this spreadsheet, you can get a link to this in order to be able to adjust it to track your own ETFs so that you can calculate what your real price per share is to better understand where you are currently at in each of your positions. So do make sure that you are tracking that adjusted price per share, because that is the number that is going to tell you if it is a win or currently a loss. So to get a copy of this spreadsheet, that link will be down in the pinned comments and in the description below to join my Discord, where you will get a copy of this spreadsheet to enter in your own distributions, your own purchases of each of your high yield ETFs. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, as would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.